Hey guys, and welcome to this edition of Scruff's Garage. So on today's video, doing something a little different than I normally do, I'm going to do a review on a new dash camera. So a little while back, a company called 70 May reached out to me. They're a company that makes dash cams. They've been doing it for a long time. They've got a new one coming out, well I think it's already out. It's the M500. So they sent me an email and asked if they sent me one, would I do a review on it? So here we are. So I know the first thing you're thinking, wait a second, Scruff, never seen you do dash cam reviews on your channel before. Why now? What makes you an expert to do this? And to be completely fair, I'm not an expert on dash cams. And to be really honest, I don't necessarily want to be. I don't want to be a guru on dash cams. So this review is really from the perspective of just the average consumer that just wants a dash cam that works and does the things you need it to do. And I don't want to spend hours on the internet agonizing over minute details from one camera to the next. I just want one that works. So that's the perspective I'm going to do a review on this one from. I haven't had a dash cam before. It's something I've been thinking about. It's really the only reason I agreed to do a review is because it was a product I'd been thinking about getting myself anyway. So it seemed like the perfect time to give one a try. So in my opinion, a dash cam really needs to achieve kind of three basic things to be decent. Number one, it needs to be sleek enough, low profile enough that when it's mounted on the windshield, it's not hanging in the way. I don't want to actually look at the dash cam every day when I'm driving. Number two, it should be easy to use. If it has a bunch of complicated specialty features that I have to take a lot of time to figure out, or if I have to fiddle with it every time I get in the truck, realistically, I won't use those features, and so that's kind of a waste. So I just want a camera that's easy to use. And then number three, the whole point of having a dash cam is that if something were to happen, got into an accident or somebody hit me, whatever, then I can get useful information off of it, that it records a decent enough video that I could get somebody's license plate, or some of the additional features that we'll talk about with this one. It has built-in GPS, so it records your speed and your location. So if you had to prove that I wasn't speeding, you've got dash cam data that can help prove that sort of thing. So if there was an accident and you had to send this to your insurance company, certainly those sorts of things would be important. So that's sort of what we're going to talk about, is how this compares with those three targets, being sleek, easy to use, and recording decent data that you could actually use if something happened. So with that said, let's dive into it. Okay, so let's talk for just a second about the size and how it mounts. Overall, obviously the dash cam is fairly small. Length, maybe like 4 1/8 long, and then it's maybe just under 1.25 inches squared all the way around. So overall fairly small, and then it fits into this mounting bracket. There's a little arrow on it to tell you how it should go in, and then it just kind of clips in. So the way they have you mount this on the windshield, they give you these electrostatic cling little card things. So this actually goes against the windshield, and then you peel off the adhesive backing on the mount, and then you place this to the static cling. And I think the reason for that is it allows you to pull this back off of the windshield. So if you wanted to reposition or move it to another vehicle, you could do so without destroying the sticky adhesive that's on the mount. They do give you a spare of each, so the sticky adhesive that goes on the mount and another static cling kind of thing. They also include this little pry tool. It's soft rounded edges, so as you're running your cable, if you're running it around like a headliner or something like that, if you need to be able to pry it back a little or use this to poke the wiring into place, it's soft and rounded, so you don't risk damaging any of the power cords. The one piece of feedback I would have, maybe one critique, most vehicles this isn't an issue, right? So you get the camera, So if we're looking at it from from this perspective. This has to match the pitch of the windshield. Most cars are pitched even more, so you've got plenty of adjustability from that perspective. Since I have a Jeep, I have a Jeep Gladiator, but the same thing in a Jeep Wrangler, the windshield is much more upright. So I think this will work in my Jeep, but it is maxed out. This is the limit of how far this can rotate. So to keep this pointed forward and not pointed at the sky, this is sort of maxed out. And I wish they would increase the range of motion for this mounting piece of it. Make it a little bit easier to mount in a vehicle like a Jeep. The other thing, if you wanted to use this as a rear-facing camera, a lot of SUVs and trucks, certainly my Jeep, has a flat vertical rear window. And so to do this, it would either have to be pointed at the ground, which doesn't do you any good. I wish this would rotate a little bit further, and that would just give you some additional mounting options if you wanted to use it for a rear-facing camera. Minor gripe, but if you're not using this as a forward-facing camera, then that might be something to think about. As far as power goes, so by default what they include is this, this end is a USB-C to plug into the camera itself, and then this end is a regular USB. A lot of vehicles have USB outlets now, my Jeep certainly does, but if you don't, or say you're using that for something else like I am, they also include your auxiliary power outlet, or used to be the old cigarette lighter, though most people don't remember when vehicles actually came with the little push button cigarette lighter thing. But they include this little adapter, and it's got two USB outlets on it, so that you can power the camera that way. The other thing I'll mention, so most of the time your power outlets in the vehicle will be, they'll come either on or off as you turn the key on or off. If by some chance your power outlets stay powered all the time, that means the camera would run all the time, and you probably don't want that. It would probably take a long time for it to run your battery down, but it also means it's constantly recording video just all the time. And since we'll talk about the memory a little later, but it's a built-in memory, so it loops on itself once it runs out of space. So that means it would just be looping endlessly day and night. The other thing you can do, it's sold separately, but they also sell a Hardwire adapter kit. This allows you, and it expands some of the functionality. This has a G sensor in it that if you have the car parked and it's turned off, and then somebody hit the vehicle, it will wake itself up, but it has to have power. To do that, they have this Hardwire kit, and the way, you've only got 3 wires here, so the black is a ground wire. The red needs constant 12-volt power, so even when the car is turned off, this needs to get power. And then the yellow wires, the accessory wire, this needs to go to a switched power source, something that comes on and off with the key. So the camera runs off of the red and black, and then it uses a signal from this switched power to know when to turn on or off the camera. So if when you turn the key on, it sees 12 volts here, it'll turn the camera on. When you turn the car off, this loses power and knows to turn the camera off. But it has the G sensor, so that if the car gets hit while things are turned off, it will turn itself, it'll wake up and record a video. And it will record that video as what's called an emergency video, and that means that it locks that video clip so it doesn't get overwritten when it runs out of space. So that part's pretty slick. But again, this is sold separately. It's just a few dollars more. But if you want that parking surveillance, I think is what they call it, if you want that functionality, then you'll need this, and that's how that gets wired. But otherwise, this is what's included, and you can just plug it into a power outlet. All right, I'm not going to go into too much detail about how I'm mounting it on my vehicle, because inevitably your vehicle will be different in how you run the wires and how you want it set up. It's going to be unique to you. So I'm going to kind of gloss over that part, but I'll show you what this looks like when it's actually mounted in the vehicle. I'm not going to go through this part of the installation just yet. I'm not exactly sure how I want to route that. So for now, I'm just going to power it with the power outlet. And then I'm going to go for a ride and record some video, and then we can talk about some of the features, and you can see the quality of video that gets recorded. And we'll just work through some of those details. I think you'll find that interesting as well. Okay, so for the moment, hopefully you can see that. You kind of see the little static cling sticker they give you, and then the mount goes to that. At the moment, I've just got it on the driver's side so that I have access to it while I'm doing the review, but I think long term I might put it somewhere less out of my field of vision day to day. And of course, at the moment I just have it powered to the power outlet. Depending on your vehicle, though, you may also have a USB outlet, or of course, like we talked about, you could do the Hardwire Kit as well. So I'm going to go for a ride, record some video so you can see this thing in action. Okay, so let's talk about a few of the features of this dash cam. So it has a built-in storage, so that means no SD cards to format or compatibility issues. Has built-in storage. So the version that I have has 64 gigs of internal storage. I believe they offer a 32 gigabyte version, but it's only $10 less. So to me, if you're going to buy one, I just go ahead and pay the extra 10 bucks and get the 64 gigabyte of storage. But that's up to you. So it records video at 2.7K, right? So that's pretty high resolution for stuff these days. Has a 170 degree field of view. And they also talk about, I have to test it later and try recording some stuff at night, but it says it has improved night vision with HDR, so we'll see. Of course, that would be important to be able to use the dash cam at night and be able to still get decent visuals and that sort of stuff. So I'll have to test that when the sun goes down. It does have an option to take pictures. So it has voice commands, and you can say take picture and it will take a picture. It takes pictures in 5 megapixels, so it's pretty high resolution. It does record some videos as emergency, so you can say record emergency video.
Start recording emergency video.
I don't know if you can hear that. It picked up my voice command and records an emergency video. And what that does, because the memory is designed to loop, so that way you never run out of memory. It just goes back to the oldest video file and begins overwriting it. But if something important happened, you would want to record that or save that and keep it from being overwritten. So you can record an emergency video, and it marks that file as an emergency, and it saves it and keeps it from being overwritten, and I think it highlights it in the timeline as well, so you have the ability to go back and find it. So if you're driving along and something happens, you can use that voice command to record the video. It also has built-in G sensors, so if you're driving along and all of a sudden you come to an abrupt stop because of an accident, that G sensor will trigger that emergency recording it as well. So
audio recording is on.
It also has other voice commands, such as audio on or audio off. It can record with or without audio sound. It has built-in GPS, which is handy. So it knows how fast you're going and your GPS location. So if you need to prove the speed at which you were traveling or where exactly the accident happened, sometimes that can be a point of contention. Were you going north or were you going south? Where did the accident happen on the road? Those GPS coordinates can be handy, and of course having your speed recorded is helpful as well. It also has some built-in ADAS features, so that's some of the driver aids. So a lot of newer vehicles, so like my Jeep for example, has some of those things already built in, but if you had a vehicle that was a little bit older or didn't have those features, so it can sound alerts for lane departure, moving traffic,
Start recording emergency video.
So I just hit some really harsh speed bumps there, and the G sensor registered that and started an emergency video. It can sound alerts for forward collisions if somebody in front of you stops all of a sudden, and also for pedestrians. So if a kid runs out in the street in front of you, it can sound an alert for that as well. So overall, it's got some pretty decent features. It also has the ability to build in, they sell a separate module for tire pressure monitoring sensors that can tie into the dash cam. Now, most newer vehicles, at least in the US, already have some form of a tire pressure monitoring system built in. But again, if you had an older vehicle and that's something you wanted to add, you could add on the additional module, and it has that functionality that it can record that data. And I would assume it can probably sound an alert if the tire pressure gets below a certain threshold. That's not something I need. My vehicle is a 2020 and it's got some of these things already built in, but the functionality is there should you need it. All right, because I'm a glutton for punishment, I decided to come over here to the mall and drive through the parking deck, and we'll see how the camera adjusts to changing light conditions and tighter quarters, and see if it still picks up decent visuals. Shoot emergency video.
Start recording emergency video.
So the voice commands seem to work fairly well. The catch to it is you have to say the exact command that it's looking for. So if you say, take a picture, it doesn't do anything. But if you say, take a photo, so it took the picture. So you just have to remember the very specific voice command that it wants to hear. It will also follow the voice commands even if the radio was on. The key is you have to talk louder than the radio. If you talk at the same level as the radio, it can't figure out your voice and doesn't respond. But if you're louder than the radio and you say the right command, then it will follow the voice command. So for the most part, I'd say the voice commands work pretty well. So I'll mention that if you plan on using the ADAS features, read that section before you mount the camera. The lens needs to go through a calibration sequence and needs to know where the front of the hood is. Several things that it needs to do, but you'll need to adjust where the camera is positioned before you mount it. I stopped and got some food and I was playing with the camera, and I was going to like, oh, let me see if I can turn that on, and then I realized when it went into the lens calibration, excuse me, that I didn't have the camera mounted where it wanted it to be. So it was like a line, and you have to line it up with the front of your hood. So just read that section before you mount the lens if you feel like that's something you're probably going to want to use. Okay, so I want to show you a couple of things on the phone that will be helpful. For starters, this is the online version of the instruction manual. You can see the link down here. They give you a printed paper instruction manual that comes with the dash cam, but honestly only the first 5 or 6 pages are in English and the rest is just other translations. I found that the most complete and up-to-date information was on the online version of the instruction manual. So for things like the voice control, there's some slight differences in the verbiage between the printed manual and what's in the online version, and the online version is what works the best. So I would recommend following the, reading through the online version of the instruction manual for various things. Everything you need to know is typically covered in here. The other thing, so this is the app. So if you turn on the hotspot for the dash cam, and then you can connect your phone to it. The first time you set them up, you'll have to put in the password, but after that it remembers it. There we go. So this gives you a preview from the camera. So there I am sitting in my office, and you can stare at the ceiling fan. So this is helpful when you're aiming your dash cam. If you're getting ready to mount it on the on your windshield and you want to make sure it's pointed in the right direction, you can connect it to your phone and you can make sure it's pointed in the right direction. The three dots up here are all the device settings, so you can change the resolution. You can change the event sensitivity, so like in my Jeep, because it's kind of harsh, you would change the event sensitivity so it doesn't trigger the emergency videos quite as often. There's all kinds of things you can change in here, your ADAS settings. Yeah, so any of the device settings that you want to change are in that device settings menu. To view the videos that you've recorded,
Start recording video. Start recording video.
so you can scroll through your timeline for various, you can select a date, and then you can watch a little preview, or you can also go to categories. So all of your emergency videos will show up under events. You can also see any pictures that you've taken, right? If you go to all videos, this is all the video clips. They're recorded in 1 minute video clips, and you can scroll through and you can watch little previews. So you can watch a preview of the video. You can turn on and off this RS special effects, which just adds some additional your direction and pitch and roll. I don't know how helpful that is. You can turn those on and off, and then if you like this video, if this is the one that you want to download, you can click the download button and it begins downloading to your phone, and then from there you can share it. You could email it, or you could upload it to social media, or send it to an insurance agent, whatever you need to do. Keep in mind, if you're recording in the highest resolution setting, the 2.7K, these become fairly large video files. So depending on how many of these things you download to your phone and the amount of storage you have available on your phone, that may or may not be an issue for you. You can change and record 1 minute, by default it's 1 minute video clips, but you can change that to 2 or 3 minute video clips. But keep in mind, if you're recording on the highest resolution setting, then those end up being really large video files, and you may have some difficulty sharing those. Of course, I've got an iPhone, you can always plug that into your laptop and download them that way. And let's see it later. I have not found a way to tether the dash cam directly to your laptop, either by the Wi-Fi or plugging in the USB directly to your laptop. It doesn't seem to recognize it to be able to look at video files. That seems to me would have been the easiest way to download video files, but it doesn't seem to. It needs to go through the app to do all those types of things. But otherwise, the app seems to work reasonably well to get to the things you need to get to and change settings. Okay, so how did it stack up against our 3 targets? Well, number one, it's reasonably small, so it's not in your field of view too bad, especially if you mount it out of the way. The sticky mount seems to work well. I didn't see any movement or vibration in the video, and my Jeep probably rides rougher than most passenger cars. So it didn't fall off the windshield or anything of that nature. So the mount seems to work reasonably well. As far as being easy to use, The voice commands are very helpful, right? There's only one button on this thing. It's an on and off, or you can hit it multiple times for turning on the hotspot or whatever, but typically I just use the voice commands. As long as you say the particular verbiage that it's looking for, the voice commands seem to work pretty well. The app works well. It's really easy to change settings for anything you want to do. So from that perspective, no issues. I do wish there was a way to tether this straight to your laptop. So if you wanted to download some larger video files or multiple video files that you didn't want to put onto your phone, to me that would have been nice. But I think most of the time, if you want a video file, you're just looking for the minute or 2 minutes maybe where a particular event happens. And so you're probably, it's not like the GoPro where I'm going to download a half an hour of video footage and I don't want to process that through my phone. So I think overall the app, connecting this to the app works out pretty well. And then as far as, can you get useful data off of it? Well, you saw the videos, recording in 2.7K is a really high resolution, so you can get a lot of good information. I like that it records the GPS information, so your speed and location. I can see that being really helpful. The low light processing seemed to do really well. So you saw the video where I went through the parking deck at the mall, where it went from bright outside to shadows in the parking deck and back to bright. That seems to work out pretty well. And the videos I've recorded at nighttime where you see other headlights and stoplights and stuff like that, it seems to process that really well also. So from that perspective, I really don't know what else I could ask for from a dash cam. So for the price point, I recommend it. I'd love to hear your feedback if you've used this or other dash cams. What did you think of it? Did it work out for you? Were there other features you liked or wish that it had? I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments as well. So, as always, thank you for tuning in to this edition of Scruff's Garage. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to post those below. I'll answer anything that I can. I'll put links to this stuff in the episode notes so you can check that out for yourself when you have some free time. So thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time.